The dead man in the alley had her name on his wristband. Brooks Elena. Her name. Her band. Her hospital. It didn't make sense. Why would a stranger die wearing her identity? And what was that glowing blue fluid inside his veins? Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video. Hit the subscribe button and tell me in the comments section where you are watching from. Now let's begin. Elena stared at the photo on the detective's desk. The veins, the eyes, the faint burn marks around the injection site. This wasn't just poison. It was something else, something manufactured. She asked for a copy of the toxicology report, but it was classified. The detective said quietly, "It's being handled by federal investigators." Federal. That word told her everything she needed to know. Whatever this was, it wasn't local. It wasn't random. Someone powerful was behind it. Later that night, Elena sat alone in her small apartment. She laid the photos across the table. The Lancaster family, the man in the trench coat, the dead body in the alley. They were all connected, and she was in the middle of it. Her phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. "You saw what happens to those who ask questions. Stop digging." Her hand shook. Another message appeared right after. "But if you want the truth, room 312. Midnight." She stared at the screen. Every part of her screamed, "Don't go." But her heart whispered something else. "You've already gone too far to turn back." At midnight, she drove to St. Catherine's Hospital. The halls were quiet. Too quiet. Room 312 was in the old wing. A section closed years ago for renovation. Flickering lights. Broken tiles. The air smelled of dust and disinfectant. She pushed the door open. Inside, one single bed. And on it, a patient hooked to machines. His face was covered in scars. His body, marked with blue veins that pulsed faintly under the skin. When he turned his head, Elena gasped. It was Evan Lancaster. He was alive. Barely. Eyes bloodshot, voice weak. "Elena Brooks," he whispered. "They told me you'd come." She stepped closer. "Evan, why did you fake your death?" He smiled faintly. "I didn't fake anything. They did. They needed me gone." "Who?" she asked. Evan coughed, blood on his lips. "The company. My father's investors. They called it Project Lumen." Elena frowned. "What is that?" He nodded weakly toward the 4-bag beside him. Inside, the same glowing blue serum. They tested it on volunteers. Said it could repair damaged cells. Heal the body. Reverse aging. His voice trembled. "But it changes you. Slowly. From the inside." Elena's pulse quickened. "Changes how?" He looked at her, eyes distant. "You stop feeling. You stop sleeping. You start remembering things that aren't yours." Elena leaned closer. "Why tell me this?" Evan's eyes darted toward the door. "Because you're next. Your name's on their list. You have something they need." Her chest tightened. "What do I have?" He exhaled weakly. "Blood compatibility. You're the only one who can stabilize it." Before she could ask another question, the monitor beside him flatlined. Elena panicked. "Evan, stay with me." She grabbed for the crash cart. But the power suddenly went out. Total darkness. Then, a voice from behind her. "Step away from the patient, Nurse Brooks." She turned slowly. 2 men stood in the doorway. Black suits. Earpieces. No badges. Corporate operatives. The taller one spoke. "This room doesn't exist. Neither does he." Elena backed away. "You can't just, he's dying." The man smiled faintly. "He already died once. You'd think he'd be used to it." He pulled a syringe from his pocket, filled with that same blue liquid. Before he could move, Elena threw the crash cart into him, grabbing Evan's file and bolting into the hall. Alarms went off. Security lights flashed red. She ran, down the empty corridor, through the service exit, out into the cold rain. She didn't stop until she reached her car. Her hand shook as she opened the file she'd stolen. Inside were documents. Medical charts, experiment records, signatures, and one line, printed over and over again. Subject lineage, Brooks. Her heart stopped. She wasn't just compatible with the serum. She was part of it. The next day, she went to see Detective Rayner. She handed him the file. He flipped through it, frowning. "Elena, where did you get this?" "From Evan Lancaster," she said quietly. "He's alive. He told me everything." Rayner stared at her for a long moment. Then, he closed the file. "Elena," he said slowly, "Evan Lancaster's body was found 2 hours ago. Burned. Beyond recognition." Elena froze. "That's impossible. I just saw him." Rayner slid a photo across the desk. It was him. Same scars. Same features. Dead. But that wasn't what scared her most. What scared her was the second photo beneath it. Her own face, taken through her apartment window. From last night. Raynor looked at her. Whoever's behind this, Elena, they're watching you. She whispered. What do they want? He shook his head. I don't know, but I think this goes way deeper than the Lancasters. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. You said the serum was called Project Lumen, right? She nodded. He slid a file toward her. Inside, an old government document. Project Lumen, dated 1997. And under Research Director, one name. Dr. Samuel Reed. Elena frowned. Who is that? Raynor looked at her gravely. He was your mother's supervisor, Elena. The man who hired her for a private research study before you were born. Elena felt her world tilt. Her mother. The study. Her blood. Everything was connected. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. She whispered. My mother was part of this. Raynor nodded slowly. And maybe so were you. That night, Elena drove to her childhood home. The house was empty, abandoned for years. She stepped inside, flashlight trembling in her hand. Dust. Silence. Old photographs on the wall. And then, in her mother's study, beneath a loose floorboard, she found a locked metal box. She forced it open. Inside, old tapes, marked Lumen trials, and a birth certificate. Her own. But under father, the line was blank. And at the bottom corner, a handwritten note in faded ink. If she ever finds out, tell her I'm sorry. SR. Elena's breath caught. Dr. Samuel Reed. The man behind Project Lumen. The man her mother once worked for. And the man who might be her father. She turned the tape over in her hand. Pressed play. A man's voice echoed through the static. Deep. Calm. Familiar. Subject EL-01. Displays full genetic compatibility. Test phase begins tomorrow. Elena's knees buckled. That was her ID. That was her voice on the background recording. As a child. Then the tape cut off. And behind her, a faint creak. She turned. A silhouette stood in the doorway. A man with graying beard. Glasses. Eyes calm and full of guilt. He whispered. Elena, we need to talk. For weeks, Elena Brooks had been running from ghosts. The Lancasters. The serum. The shadow of a project that should never have existed. But tonight, the man who created it all was standing right in front of her. Dr. Samuel Reed, her mother's old employer. And, according to the files in that locked box, her biological father. He looked older than the photos. Gray beard, tired eyes, the kind of face that carried decades of regret. Elena, he said quietly, I didn't come here to hurt you. She kept the flashlight aimed at him. Her voice trembled. Then why did you lie? Why was my name in those files? He sighed. Because you were never supposed to find out. Elena felt anger building in her chest. All my life, everything I thought I knew, it was built on lies. Who am I really? Dr. Reed lowered his gaze. You're proof that humanity could start again. Project Lumen wasn't just about curing disease. It was about rewriting human DNA, making people stronger, smarter, more resilient. She took a step back. You experimented on people. He nodded painfully. Your mother volunteered. She didn't know she was pregnant when the trial began. Elena's breath caught. She never told me. She didn't want you to be a part of it, he said softly. She tried to leave. The company threatened her. That's why she disappeared. Elena's flashlight wavered. She remembered her mother's smile, the nights she worked double shifts, the exhaustion she never explained. She was protecting me, Elena whispered. Dr. Reed nodded. She saved you. And she saved me. But the company didn't stop. After she vanished, they moved the research to the Lancasters. Their wealth made it possible to keep it hidden. Elena frowned. So the blue serum, Project Lumen. It came from the same formula that changed me. Yes, Reed said. But without your specific blood type, it's unstable. That's why they wanted you back. To finish what your mother stopped. Elena stared at him, her heart pounding. You created monsters, she said. And now they're killing to cover it up. Dr. Reed's eyes filled with guilt. I know. That's why I need your help. She frowned. My help. He reached into his coat, slowly, and pulled out a small drive, metallic, engraved with the Lumen insignia. Everything is here, he said. Research logs, names, payment records, evidence of every death they caused. If you release this, the truth will destroy them. Elena hesitated. Then why not do it yourself? Reed exhaled. They're watching me. They have people everywhere. If I upload it, they'll know. But if you do it, he paused, they'll never suspect you. They still think you're scared. Elena took the drive. Its surface was cold, heavy with secrets. She looked at him one last time. What about you? Dr. Reed smiled faintly. Redemption isn't for me. It's for you, the one thing this project accidentally gave the world. A conscience. Before she could respond, a bright light filled the window. Headlights. Engines. Doors slamming shut. Reed's eyes widened. They found us. They ran through the back hall of the old house. Rain poured through broken glass. Elena clutched the drive to her chest. Voices shouted outside. Flashlights. Orders. Then, a single gunshot. Elena turned. Dr. Reed collapsed to the ground. She dropped to her knees beside him. Stay with me. He smiled weakly, blood on his lips. Run, Elena. You have to finish it. She grabbed his hand, tears falling freely. I'm not leaving you. His grip tightened for a moment, then loosened, and the light in his eyes faded. Elena stood there, numb. The man who created her had died trying to destroy his own creation. She closed his eyes and whispered, I'll finish it. Then she ran. By dawn, Elena was inside the hospital again. The same place it all began. She found an empty terminal in the basement. Plugged in the drive. Thousands of files filled the screen. Corporate emails. Hidden video logs. Medical data spanning decades. One folder was labeled Lumen Prime. Inside, recordings of every test subject. Men, women, children. Each one marked failed. Until the last file. Subject EL-01. Status, active. Her own image stared back at her from the screen. Younger. Eyes glowing faintly blue. Her voice whispering words she didn't remember saying. If you're watching this, it means I survived. Elena's hand covered her mouth. It wasn't a recording. It was a message she'd left during her first reaction to the serum. Her mother must have hidden it in the data. She listened. They said it would make me better. But it didn't. It made me remember everything. Every life they took, every lie they told. The only way to end it is to expose it. The recording ended with one final line. Don't run, Elena. Finish what we started. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Upload. If she pressed it, everything would go public. The experiments. The cover-ups. Every name tied to Project Lumen. But once she did, they would come for her. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pressed send. Within minutes, the files went live. Servers. News feeds. Independent journalists. The world saw what had been buried for decades. The Lancasters' empire collapsed overnight. Government officials resigned. Headlines screamed, illegal human experimentation exposed. And in the chaos, the truth finally breathed free air. A week later, Elena visited her mother's grave. She knelt beside the flowers, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. They know now, she whispered. Everything. It's over. The wind rustled through the trees. For the first time in years, she felt peace. She left her job, moved to a quiet town by the coast, spent her days helping at a small clinic. The Sahir patients didn't ask about the past. The world had changed because of her. But deep down, she knew the story wasn't completely over. One evening, she returned home to find a letter on her doorstep. No address, no name, just a symbol, the Lumen insignia, engraved in silver. Inside the envelope, a single photograph, a newborn baby, wrapped in a hospital blanket, veins glowing faintly blue. On the back of the photo, a handwritten message. Generation 2 has begun. She thought she'd ended it. But maybe, Project Lumen never died. Maybe it simply evolved.